Hello everyone and welcome back. Have you ever wondered about the strange events in history that even science can't fully explain? From mysterious vanishings to coded books no one can read, humanity is full of baffling stories that defy logic. Some of these events are creepy, some are inspiring, and some are just plain weird, but all of them remain unsolved. Today, we're diving into the top 10 weirdest unexplained events in history. Get ready for a journey through mystery, curiosity, and the unknown. This is Micode-TV, and I'm Lucas. Let's jump right into it. Number 10. The disappearance of Amelia Earhart. Imagine being one of the most famous pilots alive, setting world records, and then suddenly you vanish into thin air. That's exactly what happened to Amelia Earhart in 1937. She was on her way to become the first woman to fly all the way around the globe, but somewhere over the Pacific Ocean, her plane just disappeared. No wreckage, no bodies, no clear answers. Some say she crashed into the ocean. Others believe she was captured, or maybe she even survived on a deserted island. Think about it. How can someone so famous with the whole world watching just vanish without a trace? What do you think happened to Amelia Earhart? Number 9. The Bermuda Triangle. Now, let's dive into one of the world's most mysterious spots, the Bermuda Triangle. Ships, planes, and entire crews have vanished in this region between Miami, Bermuda, and Puerto Rico. One of the creepiest stories? Flight 19, a group of 5 US Navy bombers in 1945. They radioed in saying their compasses weren't working. Then they were never heard from again. Not even wreckage was found. Some say it's storms, rogue waves, or magnetic fields messing with instruments. But others whisper about aliens, or even hidden portals. Look closely at the ocean on a map and imagine sailing straight into that area. Would you go, or would you steer clear? Number 8. The identity of Jack the Ripper. Picture this. London, 1888. The fog is thick, the streets are dark, and fear is everywhere. Why? Because of one man, known only as Jack the Ripper. He targeted women in the Whitechapel district, and despite a huge police hunt, he was never caught. Over 100 years later, we still don't know who he was. A doctor, a prince, maybe even a woman. Every time someone claims to have solved the case, new questions pop up. It's like Jack the Ripper is still laughing at us from the shadows. What about you? If you had one guess, who do you think the Ripper really was? Number 7. The Voynich manuscript. Okay, this one is seriously weird. Imagine opening a book and realizing you can't understand a single word. That's the Voynich manuscript, a 15th century book filled with strange symbols, bizarre plants that don't exist, and even odd little human drawings. For over 100 years, experts and cryptographers have tried to decode it. Some even used AI. But the result? Nothing. Not a single person has figured out the language. Could it be a medical guide? A hoax? Or maybe even instructions from another world? Pay attention here. The fact that nobody, not even the smartest code breakers alive, can read it. That's what makes it so chilling. Number 6. The Lost City of Atlantis. You've definitely heard of this one. Atlantis. A grand city, more advanced than any civilization, swallowed by the sea in just one night. That's the story told by the philosopher Plato thousands of years ago. But here's the big question. Was Atlantis real, or just a lesson about human pride? Some believe it could have been inspired by real places, like the island of Santorini, which was destroyed by a volcanic eruption. Others are convinced Atlantis is still out there, waiting to be discovered. Imagine if tomorrow, scientists announced they'd finally found the ruins of Atlantis under the ocean. Wouldn't that rewrite history as we know it? Number 5. The mystery of the Nazca Lines. In the deserts of Peru, giant drawings stretch across the ground, so massive you can only see them from the sky. These are the Nazca Lines, made over 1,500 years ago. But here's the twist. How did people back then create such huge, perfect shapes without ever seeing them from above? Some say they were used as astronomical calendars. Others think they were rituals to please the gods. And of course, some people jump straight to aliens. Close your eyes for a moment and imagine standing in the desert, realizing the ground beneath your feet is part of a massive hummingbird drawn centuries ago. Spooky, right? Number 4. The Tunguska event. June 30th, 1908. Deep in Siberia. Suddenly the sky lit up and a massive explosion flattened 800 square miles of forest. Witnesses saw a fireball streaking through the sky, then a shockwave that knocked them to the ground. Scientists believe it was a meteor exploding in the atmosphere. But here's the problem. There's no crater. None. That's led to theories about black holes, antimatter, and even alien ships. Imagine the ground shaking, trees snapping, and animals running in panic, yet nobody can fully explain what actually happened. Number 3. The Dyatlov Pass incident. This one might be the creepiest. In 1959, 9 hikers set out into Russia's Ural Mountains. They were skilled, experienced, and prepared, but they never came back. When rescuers found the campsite, they were shocked. The tents were slashed open from the inside. Some hikers had broken bones, others had missing body parts, and a few had no injuries at all, just frozen to death in the snow. The official explanation: an avalanche. But most people don't buy it. Some point to military tests. Others whisper about UFOs, or even the Yeti. Picture yourself hiking in those mountains, snow all around you. Would you camp there after hearing this story? Number 2. The WOW signal. August 15th, 1977. Scientists listening to space with a giant radio telescope in Ohio suddenly picked up a strange 72-second signal. It was so unusual, one of the researchers circled it on the computer printout and simply wrote, "Wow." It came from deep space, near the constellation Sagittarius. Was it aliens trying to say hello, or just a cosmic coincidence? No one has ever heard the signal again. Think about it. The universe is so big, and we only caught this mysterious hello once. If it was aliens, why haven't they sent it again? Number 1. The Zodiac Killer. And finally, one of the most infamous mysteries of all, the Zodiac Killer. In the late 1960s, Northern California was gripped with fear. The Zodiac claimed at least 5 lives, but what made him terrifying were the letters and puzzles he sent to newspapers, bragging about the murders. Some of those cryptic codes remain unsolved even today. Police investigated thousands of suspects, used DNA, even modern AI, but the killer's identity is still unknown. Imagine living in California at that time, opening the newspaper and seeing a chilling letter signed with a crosshair symbol. The thought that the Zodiac could still be out there today, that's the stuff of nightmares. There you have it. Now you know the weirdest unexplained events in history.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0.
Hello everyone, and welcome back. Throughout history, humans have found terrible ways to punish, control, or scare each other. Some of these methods were so cruel that even reading about them makes you shiver. So, today, we're counting down the top 10 cruelest torture devices ever invented. Some are shocking, some are stomach-turning, but all of them reveal just how far people once went to inflict pain. This is Micode-TV, and I'm Lucas. Let's dive into it. Number 10. The Scold's Bridle. Imagine walking through a busy town square in the 1500s and seeing a woman forced to wear a heavy iron mask with spikes inside her mouth. This was the Scold's Bridle. Used mostly in England and Scotland, it was strapped onto women accused of gossiping, nagging, or witchcraft. The mask silenced them completely. Any attempt to speak drove the sharp bit into the tongue and jaw. For extra humiliation, a bell was sometimes attached so crowds could laugh and mock as the victim was paraded through the streets. Think about it. This wasn't just pain, it was public shame. Can you imagine being silenced in such a cruel way, just for speaking your mind? Number 9. The boot. Now let's move to a device with an innocent name but deadly power. The boot. Don't picture shoes. Picture your leg trapped between planks of wood or iron while wedges or screws slowly crush your bones. In Scotland, one version involved heating rawhide around the leg until it shrank and crushed the flesh. Later designs grew even worse. Metal boots with spikes inside, tightened with screws until bones shattered. It was used to force confessions, but the pain was so unbearable that even guards sometimes couldn't watch. Witnesses wrote about screams so piercing that officials had to order others not to leave the room during interrogations. Number 8. The scavenger's daughter. If you've heard of the rack, a device that stretched people apart, the scavenger's daughter was its cruel opposite. Invented in Tudor England, this metal frame folded the victim into a painfully tight position. Knees pressed to the chest, head forced down, arms locked in. Some versions had spikes to dig into the skin, making it nearly impossible to move. Victims suffered cramps, bleeding, and even broken ribs. One priest who survived it wrote that his body was bound in iron, but his soul felt free. Still, the psychological trauma was huge. Imagine being bent until your body nearly snapped. Which would you fear more? The rack pulling you apart or this device crushing you in? Number 7. Thumb screws. Have you ever played with a finger trap as a kid? Now take that idea and make it horrifying. The thumb screw was a small metal clamp with a screw in the middle. A victim's thumbs, or sometimes toes, were placed inside, then slowly crushed as the screw tightened. Sounds simple, right? But the pain was excruciating. Bones cracked, flesh tore, and in some versions, sharp spikes pierced the skin. They were used across Europe, from Spain to Russia, often during interrogations. Some reports even suggest they were used in asylums when normal methods failed. It's chilling to think such a tiny device could bring so much suffering. Could you hold out under that kind of pressure? Number 6. Impalement. This method is as brutal as it sounds. Impalement meant having a sharp wooden stake forced through the body, usually from below, before being raised up for the public to see. Death didn't come quickly. Victims could linger in agony for hours or even days as gravity slowly pulled them down. The most infamous user was Vlad the Impaler, who reportedly executed tens of thousands this way. But records of impalement go back to ancient Babylon, and even as late as the 19th century during the Armenian genocide. Imagine walking into a field and seeing rows of people impaled, left as a terrifying warning. This was more than torture. It was psychological warfare. Number 5. The knee splitter. Now picture your knee trapped between two iron blocks lined with spikes. Slowly, screws are turned, pushing the blocks closer together. Bones crack, ligaments tear, and the joint shatters. This was the knee splitter. It was especially popular during the Inquisition. Depending on the crime, the device could have anywhere from 3 to 20 spikes. The punishment left victims crippled for life, if they even survived. Even just thinking about the grinding of bones is enough to make your legs ache. Would you be able to watch such a punishment without turning away? Number 4. The heretic's fork. At first glance, this device looks almost harmless. A simple metal rod with 2 forks at either end. But once strapped between a person's chest and chin, it became a nightmare. The forks forced the victim to hold their head perfectly still. Any movement, like nodding, speaking, or even trying to sleep, drove the sharp prongs deeper into the flesh. Victims were left standing, exhausted, unable to rest without stabbing pain. It was often used on people accused of heresy. Imagine being awake for days, every tiny movement punished by steel points digging into your skin. Sleep deprivation turned this into both physical and mental torture. Number 3. The pear of anguish. Now here's a truly twisted invention. The pear of anguish. This metal object started small but could expand when a screw was turned. Depending on the punishment, it could be forced into the mouth, the rectum, or even the vagina. Once inside, the device expanded, tearing flesh, breaking bones, and leaving permanent injuries. Women accused of witchcraft or adultery were often targeted. In some cases, it wasn't just about pain. It was about humiliation and control. Picture the horror of not knowing how much the torturer would turn that screw. A simple twist could mean unbearable agony. Number 2, the head crusher. This one sounds exactly like what it does. The head crusher had a metal cap placed on top of the skull and a plate under the chin. A screw tightened the two together, slowly crushing the victim's jaw, teeth, and eventually the skull. If the torturer stopped early, the victim was left disfigured for life. If not, eyes could literally pop out of their sockets. Some versions even had a small cup to catch them. It was widely used during the Spanish Inquisition. Can you imagine the sheer terror of hearing the screw turn, knowing your head was about to collapse? Number 1, the iron chair. And finally, one of the most feared devices, the iron chair. Covered in hundreds of sharp spikes, it wasn't just about sitting, it was about suffering. Victims were strapped down so tightly that the spikes pierced their skin. Some versions even had fire placed underneath, roasting the victim alive. But here's the psychological twist. Sometimes people were only forced to watch others suffer in the chair before being threatened with it themselves. The fear alone often broke them. From Europe to China, the iron chair became a symbol of pure terror. Imagine being tied down. Every movement driving spikes deeper while heat rose from below. That's why it earns the top spot on our list. And there you have it, the top 10 cruelest torture devices ever invented. Hello everyone, and welcome back. Have you ever noticed how ordinary people can shake entire governments when enough is enough? Around the world, citizens are rising, not with silence, but with voices, protests, and determination. They're standing against corruption, greed, and oppression, showing that even the most powerful leaders can be challenged by the people they govern. Today, we're exploring 10 nations where people have taken to the streets to demand justice, accountability, and change. This is Micode-TV, and I'm Lucas. Let's jump right into it. Number 10. The Philippines, fighting corruption in the floods. Imagine watching your home flood year after year, only to find out billions meant to protect you were stolen. That's the reality in the Philippines. On September 21st, Manila exploded with protests as tens of thousands demanded answers. The scandal: ghost infrastructure projects, dams never built, flood systems never completed. Nearly $2 billion just vanished into the pockets of officials and contractors. Meanwhile, families in Bulacan and beyond live in fear of the next storm. The protests grew stronger because the date was symbolic. September 21st, the anniversary of Ferdinand Marcos Sr.'s martial law. Protesters shouted, "Corruption then, corruption now!" Clashes broke out, police blocked roads, and water cannons soaked the streets. Yet the anger could not be drowned. So I ask you, if your taxes were stolen while your home sank underwater, would you stay silent? Or would you march too? Number 9. Indonesia, justice for Afan. Now let's fly to Indonesia. On August 25th, thousands protested lawmakers' outrageous housing allowances, almost 10 times the minimum wage. But what started as peaceful quickly turned into national outrage. On August 28th, a paramilitary police vehicle ran over and killed 21-year-old delivery worker Afan Cornewa. His death became the symbol of injustice. Students, unions, and rideshare drivers rallied, crying out, "Justice for Afan." Protests spread across the nation. Fires burned, parliament buildings were attacked, and even President Prabowo had to cancel a trip to China to face the crisis. By the end, at least 7 people were dead and thousands arrested. Think about it. One young man's tragic death sparked a movement that shook the government. Doesn't that show how powerful unity can be? Number 8. Nepal. Gen Z takes the streets. Picture this. Thousands of young Nepalis holding placards, chanting, and standing up against corruption and nepotism. That's what happened from September 8th to 12th. It began with a social media ban, but for Gen Z, it was the last straw. They called out Nepo babies, political dynasties passing power to their children while ignoring the people's needs. Students accused leaders of selling out their generation's future. The protests turned deadly. At least 72 lives lost. Prime Minister K.P. Sharma Oli resigned, and Sushila Koirala stepped in as interim leader. Imagine being just 20 years old and realizing your generation has the power to bring down a government. Inspiring, right? Number 7. Argentina, the fight for education and healthcare. Buenos Aires, September 12th. Tens of thousands filled the streets. Their demand, funding for universities and hospitals. Why? Because austerity cuts by President Javier Milei had left pediatric hospitals without medicine and universities without teachers. One protester cried, "Children are dying. Teachers are leaving. This is catastrophic." Another shouted, "Knowledge itself is at risk." For 5 days, Argentina roared. By September 17th, lawmakers overturned the president's veto and restored some funding. Tears, hugs, and joy filled the streets. But here's the question. Why should citizens have to fight so hard for basic rights like healthcare and education? Number 6. France, austerity, and pension rage. France is no stranger to protests, and September proved it once again. Teachers, train drivers, hospital staff, even students marched against austerity and pension reforms. Their anger, billionaires getting richer while workers are asked to retire later and live on less. Placards read, "Tax the rich, not the poor." Protesters marched from Marseille's Old Port, chanting against President Macron and new Prime Minister Sébastien Lournaud, demanding funds for schools, hospitals, and public services. Placards read, "The streets should write the budget." Clashes left over 180 arrested, with 80,000 security forces deployed nationwide. From the 1968 uprisings to today, the French have shown the world that when leaders don't listen, the people take to the streets. Number 5. Serbia, tragedy at the train station. September in Serbia was heavy with grief and anger. It all began in November 2024 when the Novi Sad train station roof collapsed, killing 16 people. The cause? Alleged corruption and negligence in construction contracts. By 2025, the outrage hadn't faded. Students, opposition groups, and citizens demanded justice. Demonstrations grew larger, and on September 6th, tear gas and stun grenades filled the streets. International voices joined in, warning President Vučić that corruption was corroding democracy. But the protests haven't ended, and the question remains, will the people's persistence finally bring change? Number 4. Peru, pensions and protest. On September 21st, Lima erupted. A pension reform forcing every adult to join a provider triggered massive protests, but that wasn't the only issue. Corruption, crime, and broken promises all fueled the anger. Students led the way, waving flags and demanding accountability from President Dina Boluarte, whose approval rating is now just 2.5%. Imagine that. Almost an entire country rejecting its leader. Mining operations shut down, clashes injured dozens, and the calls for reform grow louder each week. Peru's youth are showing that silence is no longer an option. Number 3. Bangladesh, the quota uprising. How can we forget the protests that shook Bangladesh in 2024? It started with job quotas favoring freedom fighters' descendants, but it became so much more. Students demanded fairness, merit, and justice. The government's brutal response left over 1,500 dead and tens of thousands injured. Prime Minister Sheikh Hasina eventually resigned and fled the country. Today, Bangladesh has a new interim government, but the scars remain. Think about it. Students with books in their hands faced bullets and still changed the course of history. Would you have their courage? Number 2. Lebanon, the October Revolution. Lebanon's uprising in October 2019 began with something small, attacks on WhatsApp calls. But it turned into a revolution. Citizens from every religion, background and city united against corruption and a broken system. They formed human chains, organized feminist marches, and even after Prime Minister Saad Hariri resigned, the protests didn't stop. The devastating Beirut port explosion in 2020 only deepened the rage. Lebanon's system hasn't fully changed, but the people showed something powerful: unity beyond division. That's what the true meaning of revolution is. Number 1. Sri Lanka, the Aragalaya movement. And finally, Sri Lanka's Aragalaya protests in 2022 began with candlelight vigils but grew into a nationwide revolt. Corruption, food shortages, inflation at 74%, and the Rajapaksa family's grip on power fueled the anger. Youth, unions, artists, women, and people of all ethnicities camped at Gala Face Green, creating Gota Gogama, a village of resistance. On July 9th, protesters stormed the presidential palace, forcing President Gotabaya Rajapaksa to flee and resign days later. Despite crackdowns, arrests, and social media bans, the movement proved unstoppable. Though struggles remain, the Aragalaya taught the world one thing: when people stand as one, even the most powerful rulers cannot hold on forever. And there you have it. 10 nations where people rose against corruption and oppression. Which of these protests inspired you the most? Do you think they'll create lasting change? Share your thoughts in the comments below. And don't forget to like this video, subscribe, and ring the bell so you never miss our deep dives into global stories. This is Lucas from Micode-TV, signing off. Click one of the videos on your screen to explore more amazing top 10 lists with us. See you there.